Hello, everyone. I'm Shelly Dressel, and I'm going to be here tonight channeling the universal light beings. I do this a couple of times a month, about every other week, basically. Sometimes, most often on a Wednesday, sometimes on a Tuesday, or, if I've got something else going on Wednesday. But I channel the universal light beings, and this is Albayon, who's from Arcturus, Brysentia, that's from Pleiades, and then Crystalia, that's from the Omniverse. And they are here to bring us information just about like that universal perspective of what's going on here on Earth. And also they're doing energy work with us, helping us as we move through this process of ascension. So this is a conversation. People have sent in questions via the website. And Alexander, thank you very much. He's been helping me for a couple of years now. It's wonderful. Really makes a big difference. And so we'll do some question and answers, and each one of them will talk for a little bit. Let's see. So I did do a short today on self-love, because Monday of this week, I did a meditation with the goddess of creation. That's my other half of goddess light. And the goddess of creation is God, source energy. And she was working with us this time about self-love and helping to understand that it is multi-dimensional, meaning self-love isn't just you in this reality. It's you as your higher self. It's you as your soul. And that there are different ways that you integrate that. And in doing so, it just kind of helps you and builds you up. So go check out the short, see what you think. And then the meditation is there. You can look at my website, goddesslight.net. It's also on the homepage for that. And you can look here. It's on Rumble, YouTube, and Facebook. Those are my three primary platforms that I use. And so here we are. It is just an absolutely spectacularly gorgeous day here in Atlanta. I'm in the North Atlanta, which is on the east coast of the U.S. We had a lot of rain last night, so it just kind of cleared everything out, and it dropped the temperature down, so it was a lot cooler than it has been. And so that's where I did the short. You could see my garden behind me, well, just the trees, and you can see some of my flowers. But it was just beautiful. The birds were singing, the breeze was blowing, the wind chimes were chiming. So it was just a beautiful day. I loved it. I did not want to come inside. Alexander was saying, well, hey, just do this out there. Well, then you'll hear the lawnmowers and the blowers, and I don't think it would be too good that way. Anyway, so Australia, Ontario, Melbourne, Atlanta. Thank you, everyone, for being here. I truly appreciate it. So this is done under the Universal Light Beings. I have two websites, and this website is Crystalline Transformations. And I'm just realizing that this is that time of the year when the sun comes in through my window, and it's going to probably come across me for maybe 5 minutes or so, or maybe a half hour. I don't know. Maybe I'll have to move my chair over or something. Anyway, let me see if I can. Okay. Sorry. All right, there. Now I got out of most of the sunlight, but it may still follow me over here. I don't know. Anyway, so sorry, distracted there. But welcome. I'm so glad to have all of y'all here, and I can't wait to see what they have to say. It's very funny how it is. These times that we're in, they are like waves. Sometimes I go several nights in a row and I just can't sleep. I'm like I stuck my finger in the socket. And then other times, even if I sleep all night, I feel exhausted. So there's just been such intense energies coming in, and it's all about the ascension. This is all about integrating these new energies. So hopefully it'll kind of have some relief. I have found that the solstices, which, June and December, that seems to be, well, the solstice and the equinox. It's the solstice that bring in a lot of energy, and the equinox that balance the energies. So we're coming up to the solstice. So it's been bringing in and bringing in and bringing in. And we'll just have to see how all that goes. Okay, well, I am going to probably go ahead and get started just because this tends to be a little while. From Maine, good to have you. Thank you. Good to have everyone here. Anyway, so, I did want to say, because sometimes people have made statements later, we get a lot of questions that come in, and we try to answer as many of them as we can. But if there's a question that was asked the last time we got together, the time before, then Alexander does not necessarily put it up. And so someone says, no, you didn't answer my question. Well, I answered one just like it, but maybe said in a slightly different way. So be aware that some of these questions may be very similar to one another. And if we've just answered it, then they might wait, and we'll answer it another time. But otherwise, we do try to get to as many of these as we can. And then if I don't, then I'm sorry about that. But here I go again. I should have gotten up and closed the curtain, but oh well, it'll pass. Okay, so I'm just going to jump in here, and we're going to get going. You know what I wish I had the ability to do, to like just look over there and have it close. I think someday I'll be able to do that, but I can't do it today. All right. Greetings. It is I, Brysentia. I come to you at this time to speak about several different things. I have several things on the agenda today as this was coming up. I wanted to speak first and foremost about your bodies and what it is to be in this physical body, and how your bodies have been changing and transitioning. When you go back thousands of years, if not maybe even as much as a million, no, not really a million, but definitely several thousand or 100,000 years, the earth was at that really high light frequency. So at that time, your bodies were completely different than what they are now. However, just kind of fast forwarding it. So because your bodies were that way, and because that was what was intrinsic within you, that's when you had your direct links and your direct communication with your soul family that was out in the universe. That's when the portals were wide open on the earth, and ships came in and out of those portals all the time. So then as the earth gradually shifted downward, you could say, and as there was like a cap that was put over everything, and people were suddenly immersed in this energy that literally shut down your DNA, then it was almost like a completely different species. It took us a long time to be able to adjust to it also. I think we've talked before that during the time of Atlantis, there were 3 times in which Atlantis was on the earth. And the very first time was very similar to Lemuria. So it was really high vibrational frequency. It was a lot of technology, and it was a lot of transitioning and transformation taking place. And then it led to the next phase of Atlantis. And this was somewhat a blend where they still had a lot of the spirituality, but they were going into the technology. And then that led to the third phase, which was when the energies were completely overridden, and that's when they dropped everyone's DNA, and that's when they started working. And as I believe, did I say last time, or when was it? I cannot remember 100% when I spoke about it, but I did, or maybe it was even in a private session. I can't remember, but I did mention that with humanity's permission, there was a protection that was placed in everyone's DNA. And it is that protection, which is part of what is happening right now, that is allowing for this transition to take place. When your DNA is fully activated, and you are fully in spirit, and you are fully in who you are, then it will all be a non-issue. But like a vision that just came into my head was, as you watch like a chicken or an eagle, or if you watch something that's born from an egg, it's like you see that crack. And then with that crack, it begins to give it something to kind of hold on to, and it opens up even more until it's broken apart that shell and it emerges out of the shell. This is what's happening with your DNA. And just as with all living creatures, there are some that go more quickly than others, and some that are less quick as others. They're the ones that kind of bring up the back end. And so right now, and starting probably as much as I would say starting about 50 years ago was when we first went into this. And we began to work with the DNA, and we began to work with the energy, saying that the ascension is going to come, the ascension is going to happen. And then it went into the next phase. And then we started working with the energy some more. And by we, I could just hear a lot of you saying, oh, controlling and manipulating, as you all are probably well aware. That's not what we were doing. We were helping you to get back to that which is your normal, that which is your intrinsic energy. So that's where you are right now. It's those shells have cracked open. Many of you have come outside of it. Many of you are much more fully in alignment and in balance with your DNA, and your gifts and those that are natural and intrinsic within you have begun to manifest themselves. So the key here is that most often it's going to look different than what you're anticipating, because you've been thinking about this for a long time, and you've been looking at it with your third dimensional consciousness, and you've been trying to see what's going to happen. Where's this all going to go? So what needs to take place is that you need to begin to look at it with the expanded consciousness, which is a lot easier to do through your unconscious, but look at things with your expanded consciousness so that you can much, much, much more fully activate these things that are going to come at a different level. It's like that person that is waiting for something, and they're waiting right here at this vibration that they are, and it passes them right beside, or it passes underneath, or it passes over the top, and things just pass by because they're just that slightly different vibration or frequency. And that's where so many of you are right now. So allow your consciousness to expand, allow your energy to expand, so that you can very purposefully open up and have that link or that alignment activate within you. The next reason why I talk about this is because of the importance of your physical body. So many people right now on the planet have chronic problems. You may have chronic illnesses, you may have cancer, you may have just all sorts of different things. And a lot of these are man-made things that have happened. Some countries are worse or have it worse than other countries do, but everyone around the world has some amount of illnesses, be it chronic or acute, that are prompted by either the foods that you're eating, the medications that you're taking, the vaccines that you've had. There are so many different things that can come into play with this. And that's why it's very, very important for you to begin to look at what am I doing in my everyday life that might have an impact on why my health is the way it is. Okay, that being said, there are going to be some very big and significant changes that come around about food. All of these things, sorry, we're downloading into Shelly again. For so many, the vast majority of you, it's taken you probably some time to really come to the understanding and the belief that other groups of people deliberately put things in your food, put pesticides in the food, put pesticides and stuff in the animals, and just so many different things that were deliberately done with a clear intention of trying to have dominance over people. So once everybody kind of got past that perspective of it, then you began to have a greater understanding. Oh, this is why this is happening, when in my family, there's never been this before. So when you look at family, and when, swinging back around to DNA, there are certain traits that one family may have over another family. And there's that certain amount that is, just the intrinsic. Yes, they're human. That's the same in everybody. But when you start looking at family and the DNA in the family and that which is for this line here. And this is where you may see that there is a common denominator in it that perhaps causes people in this family to get a particular type of cancer. And that same potential could be in another person or another family lineage. However, because they don't have other things that are going on, it never gets activated. So we're talking about the times when in a family, one person gets sick, then the next person gets sick, then the next person gets sick. And that common thread is frequently in your DNA. Okay, so what I'm going to do, and oh boy, it's getting really bright here. So what I'm going to do is I just want to take a minute and work with humanity. So this may be that I'm going to, here we go, scooting again. So what I want to do is literally at this point, take a minute to work with people's DNA. Now, what I'm doing is I'm connecting with humanity, and I'm connecting. If you give me your permission that I link with you. If you don't want me to, completely fine. It can just go right on past you. It's no big deal. But for the collective consciousness of the planet, and for each one of you, I want to go down into your signature cell. When each one of you was created, the sperm, the egg, when that came together and created you, that's your signature cell. That's, and as that multiplied and went further, that's where you store your DNA. That's where you store the aspects that are you. So I'm going to go into everyone's signature cell that chooses to have this. And as I do so, what I want to do is just illuminate it. I illuminate it with light. We're looking at your DNA. And for some of you, we can see the strands. You're accustomed to seeing the two lines with the horizontal in between. And as you go into more than 12, you begin to see what looks like 4 sides to that, but it's actually more like 6 or 8 sides. And so instead of just 2 and you're looking at 1, it becomes expanded, and there's 2 of them here, 2 of them here, 2 of them here, and then it creates a circle. Whew. So within that, I'm just going to send that impulse of light, and I want to illuminate each person, if you so choose, if you accept this, that it illuminate your DNA, and that it help you to activate those things within you that will lift you into the higher consciousness. That maybe what it will do is help you to bypass those chronic illnesses that you may have, that maybe it'll help you to bypass a chronic condition that a certain family may have within their lineage. And as I put this little ball of light here, we have a clear intention that it moves through, it goes wherever it needs to go. But once you transition that signature cell, that's going to talk to all the other cells in the body. And I think it usually takes some time. And once it has communicated one cell to the next cell to the next cell, eventually your entire body will be with these activated cells. That's what will be working inside your body. So I'm continuing to do it. And here's where I want to inject into it that, how do we say it? How do I say it? Like with the expanding of your consciousness, I want you to specifically look beyond something that is flat or linear and look into that quantum genetics, you could call it, or the quantum physiology, whatever it is that resonates with you. But we want to look at it with that expanded. There we go. Whew. Okay. Whew. So what I saw then when we finally tapped into it, and of course I was using Shelly's body here as the core, but through that, of course, and my intention of linking with each one of you, I could see that there were a number of you that were able to go from that flat linear into that expanded. It almost looks like a rotating set of DNA strands. And within those DNA strands, of course, you could go, if you want to, you could go all the way to say, hey, there's dementia in my family. Is there something that's broken, or is there something that I can heal in my DNA to stop having dementia in my family? Another one could be the cancer that so many people talk about. Chronic illnesses such as maybe your high blood pressure, diabetes, a stroke, different things like that. Whatever it may be, just ask to have it be illuminated within your strands of DNA that are here and present. There we go. And then know and trust that, of course, I'm working with many, many other light beings that are going to be working. Some might be with you more continuously. Some might just be moving past quickly. So whatever you so choose, be open to receive, and this will continue to work inside of you. Okay. Now then, so I wanted to speak about that, just to explain what has been going on. We've done this with you, and like when you go up to Albayon's med bed, it's not exactly like this. It's something but it's something similar. It's about working with that which makes you the person you are and you the human that you are, so that it can raise the vibration and frequency, so that those other parts of it that are already there can now be illuminated, can now be connected into, and can help to support and work with you in your physical body. There are strands of that are also going to align with your emotions. And there are strands that are going to align with your mental body. Now, a lot of your mental body is the culmination of this lifetime. So, but there's that's streaming in, that's coming from your soul essence. So be aware that there's somewhat of a blending that's taking place. And, but this is something that can affect your physical, mental, emotional. And then, of course, that just automatically brings into it the spiritual aspect, because you are a spiritual being, and because we're working through your spirituality. Okay. Woo. Well, that was pretty cool. So I wanted to talk about DNA again, and I know there's a lot of that you've already heard before, and there's nothing new, because I can't really go in and say the 23rd strand is the blah 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 blah, because it's just there isn't like a set sum that the certain number works, because people's DNA, there's a certain number, like I said, there's a certain amount of it that is general to all of humanity. But in some people, their DNA may be listed in a different sequence of energies, or a different sequence. Like some people may have a lot of strength in their physical body, and so that may be lower down in terms of the numbers that you're talking to. So I can't just sit there and say, okay, we're going to go into the 9th, we're going to go into the 23rd. But if you continue to work with this, you will continue to strengthen and activate these strands of your DNA that have been dormant for so very long. It's something that's going to happen to everybody. So the key here is that you are being proactive, you are asking, and you are helping yourself to activate it ahead of time, because you may have been trying to do this for years, but there wasn't enough energy, and there wasn't enough of that cosmic universal energy to be able to come in and really fully support you. But now it's here. It's been coming in these last several months, massive amounts coming through solar flares, coming through transitions. And as the earth rotates in a particular way, it's like it gets to a certain angle and then pulse, 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 pulse. Things that were just like what you might call your sun, not the solar flares, not, that which is just always there. As the earth rotates to a particular, then it just comes right in, and it has a much greater impact. So this is very exciting. This is very exciting. I don't know, like I just heard someone say, well, when will we get back to having what we had in Lemuria? Not probably for about 100 years, maybe 75 years. And I'm talking really high frequency, where there's a lot of telepathy and teleportation. And, I just don't see that happening. Minimum of 40 to 50 years. At that point, there will be a lot of it, but it won't be across all of society, and it won't be, really easy to use every time. But it's coming, and that's why we're doing everything that we're doing. Okay. Well, now that I've done that, I guess let's just jump into questions, Alexander, if there are any for me tonight. What is the best way to deal with one's shadow and negative programming that are now coming up for so many of us? Beautiful question. Thank you so much for asking that, because that actually kind of goes hand in hand with what we just did, does it not? So when you were born, um, each of you as the human, you've got that which you consider positive and that which you consider negative, and it's all a normal part of who you are. So when people are talking about a shadow self, basically, and I'm just defining this in case someone else doesn't know what that means. When people talk about a shadow self, it's basically that programming they may have in their unconsciousness that is keeping things from happening in their everyday life, because you may be saying to the world, I want to find the perfect partner for me, and I want to get married and have a children and a family. And then year goes by, year goes by, year goes by, and nothing happens. You're not manifesting it. And then each person, and I mean, you can insert many other different scenarios. And then the people are like, well, I don't understand. Why isn't this working? So the shadow self may be saying, I'm afraid to be in a relationship. I'm afraid to let go of myself. I'm afraid to be fully open and intimate with someone because bad things happen. And that doesn't mean they were abused when they were younger. It's just there are certain things that come in when you're born that you bring with you into this lifetime. It may be a carryover from another lifetime, and it's now here for you to heal it. It may be that it's something that you know you're going to be in particular situations, so you're preparing yourself to, to protect you. So there's so many different ways that reasons for why you have that. So when it comes to something like this and you're feeling as if, well, I've been trying and trying and trying to manifest it, but it hasn't been manifesting, then start looking at your unconsciousness. Start looking at that shadow of who you are that you're dragging around with you all the time, and begin to work with it in that way. How do I do it? Well, many different ways. You can consciously say, this is what I've been seeking to manifest. This is how I've done. This is what I've done through my consciousness to manifest it. And it's still not here. So start asking, what inside of my unconsciousness is keeping that from happening. Another way of looking at this, and I think what this particular person was talking about was with the types of codes, because these solar flares, they're not just random. They come in with particular light codes, as they're called, which means these light codes come in and they have an impact on the collective consciousness of all of humanity, but then it comes into your own energy field. And so some of these light codes, in particular, back in April, they were intending to clear out your unconsciousness so that you can move forward and you won't have those things that have been holding you back and dragging you down. Now, for some people, it can be as massive as what people used to think of karma. This is not the true meaning of karma, but like, oh, I must have had a lifetime where I was really horrible to other people, so I have to clear out being horrible to other people. That's not really what this is about. This is more so about things that frequently you instigated or initiated for yourself as a protective mechanism, and now it's no longer protecting you. Like, say, for example, you're a young child in an abusive household, so you shut down. You turn off your emotions. You turn off because of the screaming, because of the trauma that was to you. So you shut it down. So now here you're an adult and you are moving forward. You're trying to have a relationship, but that's still shut down inside of you. So that is the shadow aspect that is keeping you from from being able to move forward. This is but an example. There's so many other different ways that this can happen. So as these codes are coming into the planet, and as things are opening up and awakening for people, sometimes they know exactly what it is. Other times they don't really know what it is, but they do know that there's something coming up and it makes me feel like crap. And what can I do? So clearing it out, clearing out your energy field, standing in the energy of the sun, grounding into the earth, letting the earth's energies clear your field, drinking lots of water, drinking, you know, just grounding and clearing your energy is the best way to clear that out. And if there's something specific that is sticking in your consciousness, then you can deal with that. I felt like I was going down a roadway there, so I pulled myself back in. But that's how I would handle that. And be aware that it's probably going to continue to come up. And, I just heard someone say, well, is it ever going to be completely cleared out? Probably not to the degree that you want, but eventually, hey, that's a good question. For those children that were born after 2000 and after 2010, they didn't come in with the same kind of shadow self that a lot of you guys did that are older, because you guys brought this all in to clear for humanity and to clear for the planet. So the younger generations are coming in without some of that, those shadow energies. So that's one way that it'll be transitioned out of humanity completely. But I feel as if anytime you're on a planet that's got free will and people make choices, there's always going to be a certain amount of a shadow self, because you have the free will to go and do this. You have the free will to go and do that. And that's always going to create a storage place where some things you're going to store in your unconscious and some things you're going to keep in your everyday reality. Whew, that was a great question, and I certainly went in multiple different different angles. I think I answered it, for what they were asking. The pyramid shape at the top of Mount Kailash in the Himalayas is considered to be the Hindus to be radioactive and the home of Lord Shiva. Is it still radioactive? And was Lord Shiva an extraterrestrial who became a symbol of power in Mount Kailash and the Himalayas? Lord Shiva did live there. He was human. He was part of what you might call the ascended master. We're just thinking Shiva was also, we're wondering if Shiva was also part of the Sananda energies, and he may have been. Or he may have been one step or two steps down from that. But yes, Shiva did live in that place. And, people are accustomed to using the word radioactive because you kind of understand what it is. But really, people use the Earth's magnetics, and it was more magnetic active than radioactive. That's like a different type of frequency. And so it did have, it was one of the portals. It still is the portal. And but it was one that was actively used. And Shiva was one of the ones that went in and out. He lived many, many, many years on the earth plane, but he did ascend off the earth plane at one point, and then he came back. They talk about Yeshua, that he lived on the earth, he died and ascended off the earth and then came back. So Lord Shiva was another one that did that. And so that's one of the reasons. And again, they're somewhat similar but different parts of what the world was much smaller at that point, and there was a great deal more that was uninhabited or very simply inhabited. But yes, I'm confirming that as a yes for that question that you were asking. To decalcify the pineal gland, we are told to avoid wheat and carbohydrates, especially sugar. We are also told that we love and truly enjoy what we eat, that if we love and truly enjoy what we eat. It feels like there was more to that question, but that's okay. So yes and no. The second half of that is the pineal gland is activated through vibration and frequency. And there are certain things like the is it calcium that was in your water, or P? What is it? there was something in your water that that did help to calcify it, as did certain other minerals that were used inappropriately. So when this person's talking about wheat and sugar and some of those other things, it's because they've been genetically modified. If you have things that are organic and there's no genetic modification and it's coming from healthy soil, it doesn't matter if you eat it and how much you eat it. It's not going to have any impact on that. Fluoride. Thank you so much for writing that in. Yeah. So, and you all know that the fluoride was done to purposely keep the pineal gland from being activated. There are some of those that do yoga, and there are certain pressure points that people can use, and that also sends energy into the pineal gland. And so here's the thing. Shelly's never done any of those things. She's never done the pressure points. She remembers way back in the 90s as she was learning, someone was like, well, you have to do this, and turning their lip inside out and doing all this stuff. And she was looking at them like, what are you talking about? So it can all happen very naturally because it's a change in your frequency, and it's impulses of energy and light that's going into your brain. It's associated with the Kundalini, and the Kundalini is down in your root chakra. So, you know, that's not going to be fully activated until the pineal gland is activated, because they're together with one another. So she did nothing about what she ate. She did nothing about, you know, different exercises, and it activated. So that's just showing it's more frequency than anything else. But if someone is eating a lot of things that have been genetically modified, you're not getting the true nutrition from it, or you're getting things that have been shifted in such a way that it's deliberately trying to diminish it, that it's just a little bit harder for you to do it. So if you want to make changes to your diet because it helps you feel good, and it also helps you to be able to what's the word? You know, activate it through the raising of your vibration and frequency because of your diet, then sure, that all helps, that all works. But you will probably find, and you probably have already found, many of you, that there's no one way to do it. There are multiple different ways in which people can get to the same end. It's about whatever resonates with you and your lifestyle. Is it possible that the water inside the pineal gland not to calcify as we get older? Okay, so then what this person is talking about is as you get older, through the lack of exercise, lack of movement in the brain, you know, perhaps strokes, perhaps, you know, of course, there's every potential that it will never calcify. And as I'm looking at this, and as I'm looking at humanity, and in particular considering those that are getting older, my take on it is that most of that was because of, like, you quit working your brain, you quit thinking, you quit analyzing, you quit using your brain, and all of your brain just kind of shrinks up to a degree. So I would not say that, I guess I'm trying to think about. No, it does not have to calcify because of age, as long as you just keep doing the energy. And so what is it that's associated with the pineal gland is your telepathy, your intuition, your love frequency, your alignment to your soul. So it's those types of things that are going to really keep it active and keep it motioned, or activate it if yours has not been fully activated as yet. On 5/11/25, Texas received purple rain. On 5/7/25, Colorado received blue rain. Can you please look at it? Is it harmful to humans and animals? Really, purple rain and blue rain? Because to me, that obviously sounds like a chemical. So let me look at it and see. Sorry, I have to work with Shelly's brain, and purple rain is going, she's singing purple rain in the background, and I'm like, quiet. So in Texas in particular, it feels like that was okay. So both of these are chemicals, and both of them were done intentionally. but Texas in particular, it feels like it was clearing out something else that had been done that was harmful to a particular part. And so it was more so about working with the ground. And then the one in Colorado, both of them feel okay. Both of them feel to me as if, sorry, I'm still just looking at them and I'm trying to look at all the different potentials around it. I do feel the energy of the nefarious ones around this, as if it was, first of all, intended to be something from the nefarious ones. And maybe they intended through rain, like with the chemtrails, to drop on people the different chemicals that are going to kind of slow people down. However, it feels like instead of them, it feels like those that work for the good tried to take it over and tried to use something different that was going to instead reverse some of the things that had been done for the people. But even that, it feels like that was the intention. Did it really work that way? I'm getting like maybe it didn't work so well. I don't have a sense that this is going to happen all over the place. I have a sense that they were trying it in these two places to see if it would work and if it would help. And I don't see that I don't see any harm to humanity per se, but I don't feel as if they accomplished what they truly wanted to accomplish. See, I just want to explain something because if you're new to channeling or even to Shelly, when you're looking at energy, you can look at energy and see something, or you can hear words associated, or you just get an impression. And so when we're working with Shelly, all of those three things happened at once. And so with what she was seeing, she could see one answer. The impression was another answer. What she was hearing was something else. And that's why sometimes she sits quietly and it all gets blended together. And that gives you kind of the whole picture. So be aware that sometimes maybe it's not the whole picture, but it's just a portion of it. And that's not saying it's right, wrong, or in between, but this is why sometimes things are a little bit more complicated than others. Okay, anything else? Can you tell us more about the NPCs? Okay, so when I look at the NPCs right now, non-participant C, what does the C stand for? Non-participant players, NCP. Anyway, these are people that came to Earth, and some have called them clones in the past. Some have called them they're not really CGI per se, but there's been different definitions that have been bandied about these, and these have been character. Thank you very much. I tell you, this one's got my back here. Thank you. There've been a couple of you that are giving me those words that are that I'm missing out. Anyway, so there's a few different ways in which you can interpret this, but the bottom line is these are people that are here on Earth for a particular reason, and they have not had a whole entire lifetime on Earth. They do not have a soul that is associated with them. Like each of you guys, you're created, you're born, you live your life, you have a soul essence that is living throughout all of this. These are people that might just show up. And the way that it works is those that are around them have a memory of that. Oh yeah, I know that person. Oh yeah, sure. I've seen that person before. And then when they're gone, that person will just forget about them. So it's something that is a part of the ascension process where they needed to create changes. Most of the non-participant characters, have been here to do negative things, you could say. And most of the reason for that is that they have come in as a means of pushing people to make different choices. It's like it's showing up in your face, like Antifa, Black Lives Matter, the group things that the what do you call those things? Riots and the different stuff that is happening. Frequently, those are groups of people that are non-participant characters. And so already as I'm looking at, and there were as many as several thousand, certainly not a million, but maybe even as much as 100,000. And we're not just talking the US, we're talking all over the whole entire planet. And some of them even got kind of inserted into some of the places of power when that individual was taken out. And sometimes they were taken out by the nefarious ones. And this puppet was put there in place. And if you ever wonder, is that, you can look at someone and you can see that they're a souled energy. And if you look at someone and they just look like a shell, then you might say to yourself, oh, this is probably an NPC. Anyway, so there are not as many on the planet as there were about 2 years ago, because the tide has changed, because you're now in the final outcome. But there are enough here that they're still trying to have an impact to help people to awaken. And most often they are here and they're working on people through lack. Like they're pointing out to people things that they need to change through lack. Most of them are really truly just kind of neutral. They're not positive, they're not negative, but they pick up a role, they have something that they're doing, and that's what does it. We also saw, I remember another time when we looked at this, that many of you guys have an aspect that's coming down from your soul, or like an ascended part that doesn't have a soul, but it's like an aspect of some of you is there walking around and acting as these non-participant NPCs, because then you will also get that information that's going to come back into you. Some of these are, all of these light beings that are here that are working with you with the, from the motherships and from these other places. They may send an aspect of themselves down onto the earth plane to play a role. And then when it's done, they bring it back up and they're over and done with. I saw something here, 110,000 left. China I heard China had 1 million or 100,000. Can't calculate. Anyway, China did have a lot, and I feel as if China has gotten rid of a lot of them, but China has always been secretive, and China has that dome and, that barrier that keeps energies from looking at it frequently. So yes, there are still all throughout the planet, but it is not near as much as it used to be. Whew. Interesting. All right. Anything else for me? What place does astrology have with the rising of consciousness and awareness? It's going to have an even more important place, because the more that people are awakened, the more that the consciousness has risen, you're going to recognize that astrology is an integral part of humanity. Out in the universe, it's just a part of our natural day. There are many parts of astrology. We have a much more expanded astrology than what you have here on the earth. And there are many that program their ships by what the astrological lineup is, because that's the way the energy of the universe is. And if we want to go to a particular place, we'll put in an astrological calculation, and that will take us to that place that we want to go. So as the earth plane, as there's so many different things that people use, the tarot, the energy healing, the astrology. There are so many things that were very much a part of society. And then as the control and manipulation came in, they wanted to get rid of anything at all that would stimulate your intuition or stimulate your higher consciousness, so that it wouldn't be there stimulating that for you, and they could keep dumbing you down and dumbing you down. So it's going to be even more important than what it has been in the past. Is Adele still alive? What have we seen? Is that a clone of her? Adele, Kelly Clarkson, there's so many of these people that when you look at them now, you're saying, man, they look different. And you question, are they alive? Are they not alive? Adele started off with such a pure energy. And she tried really hard to stay away from the mainstream and the controllers and the manipulators. But in the end, that was something that she did connect to. So is Adele still alive? No, she's not. So the person that we see as Adele right now that's singing, is this a clone? No, it's not a clone. these people that they call 2.0s, who does that mean that they're totally, how could someone lip sync that well, or how could? Okay, so we do want to say this because this just slipped into my consciousness. Adele was taken out by the nefarious ones. There were multiple of these stars, or if you want to call them, or people that were in power. Huge, massive number, probably more than half, went into it for the with their eyes wide open, doing all of the things that they did so that they could be part of the of the process for hurting people, and part of the black magic and the different stuff like that. So there's many that went in for that, but there were also many that were like Adele, that didn't believe in that, didn't want anything to do with it, did not, did her very, very best not to be connected into that. And those are the individuals that, some of them did get rescued, some of them did get saved. But we just have a sense that she was actually taken out by the nefarious ones, because as things were starting to come down, and as they knew that they could no longer maintain all these things, they just started killing off the source for some of these clones, for many of these clones. That's my take. But I do feel as if there is an energy, so maybe it's someone that is playing the role of Adele. Is it an NPC that came down from her own soul essence? There's a good question. Maybe so. But anyway, I feel as if there will be many individuals that they just got caught up in something, and it was more than what they could handle. Okay. Is menopause created by the no? Yes, women have always had menopause. That's just a part of the human experience. You didn't have your period from the time you were born. You had your period when your body got to a particular place, and that went along with the hormones. And then as you got to the end of life, those hormones are not as prevalent. And that's why when they talk about the Crohn's, they frequently had the little bit bigger stomachs. They may have been a little bit crunched over. And that is because they don't have the hormones in them that you have during that majority of your life when you have those reproductive hormones. So they have, it's always been that cycle. The same is true for men too. They have times when they have their hormones that are at their peak, and then they peter off. So is it going to be as acute of a difference? No, there will be certain hormones that will still maintain within the body, both men and women, and that will help to give them a better quality of life instead of what it is with the dramatic change that they have now. So yes, there's always been menopause, but the amount of hormones that are residual is what will be different. Anything else? Okay. Gosh, it's been a long time, so probably good. Well, thank you so much for this opportunity. Understand that all of that activation that we did with your own DNA, it is going to be effective. And again, if you're coming late to the party, then I worked with everyone and I tried to activate things, and it's available to anyone that so chooses. All you got to do is say, I accept, or I'm open to receive, and it is yours. Now, you are at this very, very, very pivotal time, and there's a great deal of transition that's taking place, where in some regards it seems like there's a greater divide, and in other things it seems like one day you're here, one day you're here, one day you're here. So keep the faith, keep your balance. Remember that where you focus your attention and your awareness is what's going to manifest for you. I'm always with you on Saluia. Greetings. It is I, Albayon. Whew, that was a lot of energy with Brysentia. She had told the two of us, like earlier in the day, I'm going to be the one to go first, because she just had a lot that she wanted to convey, and she knew that there would be a lot of questions, and as you could see. So one of the things that I want to talk about is timelines. I've talked about timelines again, many times in the past. And what is happening is, rather than having like 5 or 6 different timelines all playing out individual from one another, you've had it come down to about one, maybe 2 at the very most. And that was sometime last summer. I want to say July, August, something like that. And over that time, as the increased energies are coming in from the universe, and as all of this transition is taking place, that timeline is getting more and more and more concise. What does a timeline mean? It means that you're on a projected frequency that will most likely enhance particular experiences in your life. How's that for a definition? And these timelines, the people that would gravitate towards a particular timeline are those that were going to experience maybe trauma in their life. And then others might gravitate towards a timeline where things seem to go smoothly. They were in sync with their fellow man. They were in sync within themselves. So life unfolded in a particular way. And everybody now jumps between these things, So do you remember those times when it's like, wow, why are they having that experience? And I'm over here having this experience. Those were frequently what you would call timelines, because the timeline is an energetic potential and projection manifested by those on Earth. So as the ascension became closer and closer and closer, instead of all these random different things, it became one big, massive timeline. But because it was so big at first, there were still people that were jumping around in different potentials and having different experiences. So over the last 6 months, that's been narrowing even more, so that what it's doing is it's creating a timeline or a frequency in which the vast majority of the people on Earth are in alignment with one another. And so because there are still all of those people that are not open, that have not yet stepped into the new energy, they that's what's keeping that bit of a separation. But it's like, instead of having like wildly different experiences that are somewhat distant from one another, the closer they get and they're running parallel, going through your life, then you can be here and then here and then here and then here. So it's like you're bouncing back and forth, and each timeline has its own consciousness and orientation. Even though it's a part of the whole, there is that subtle difference, and that's why people are feeling confused, and that's why they're feeling as if they're missing something. Or sometimes what it is they felt like, I finished that project and now suddenly I'm not done with the project, because in the other timeline you might have finished it. So right now, with these massive changes that have been going on, the clearing out of people's DNA, the clearing out of things that are in your unconsciousness, all of these things are what are causing people to kind of shift their focus and shift their energy space to space. So that's a phrase that you're hearing is, I'm jumping timelines, or I'm changing. And indeed, you could look at it that way. The more that humanity is awakened, and it's going to be a very long time before 100% of humanity is awakened. But right now, I'd say you're right at 90 to 95%. So that really is the vast majority, is in that frequency of the consistency with the higher vibration, the higher frequency, the open connection that is activating DNA. Okay, so I did want to say about that. Gosh, I feel like I always like to talk about political things, but I'm not, nothing's really popping into my mind right now. Oh. Yeah, let's talk about the Middle East, because that seemed like it was a really big deal when Trump went over there. Was that last week? I believe it was last week when he went. The Middle East is, when you go back into the ancient times, that's where a lot of these civilizations took place. And there is a lot of energy that is anchored and buried in the Middle East. And because of where it's located, there's direct links and there are direct pathways that go to these other parts of the planet from there. So it's always been a very, very, very important part of the world. They have also had their cultures. Some of their cultures date back to the ancient cultures, and they still keep up some of those ancient policies, maybe not in their full day-by-day life, but there are certain traditions that they have that really do go back thousands of years. And so that's something that so much of the rest of the world, you don't have that same ancient lineage. You have the lineage that comes through humanity, but not necessarily the lineage associated with man. China has been in China for as long as there has been humanity there. So they have that same thing. Now then, with this, let me look at this, because I meant to look ahead of time, but let me look at this. So it feels as if there was a great deal. I have no idea about mainstream media because I always forget about them. But I know with what was shown on the internet, what was shown in videos and shown on YouTube, that felt very real and authentic to me. I feel when I look at this, that this is something that is not just going to benefit the United States and them. They were making deals, and there were other people there from other countries. These deals are going to affect the entire planet. Much of what they're talking about, we know that they have oil there, and people always assume it's oil, and they assume it's gas, and they assume it's energy for that. They also have very tectonic, some of the plates that are underneath there have a lot of energy, and they've already been drawing from that energy. So there was a great deal of investment and intentions that were going back and forth there that has to do with bringing out new energy. It's talking about quantum. The quantum financial system was a part of it. The quantum energy field was a part of it. There are a lot of them, believe it or not, that have that direct link to the universe, and they don't talk about it. It's not something that everybody is aware of, but there are certain cultures in that area that still have that open communication with the universe. And so that is one of the reasons why, and we've said before that Trump is hybrid, that he does have a lot of that universal energy that's within him. So these things combined are why it was such a pivotal and such an important trip to take place. As some of you will remember, that was also where a great deal of the nefarious ones were centered. And so some of these cultures had been taken over by the nefarious ones, and that's where the control and the manipulation was really perpetrated. And we're not saying it's the only place. We know this has been worldwide, because I could already hear people say, no, what about here? What about here? I get it. But a lot of these nefarious ones did live in this space or somewhere close to this because of these portals and because of the vibration and frequency of the earth in these areas. And so with what they did with these contracts, it was more taking down some of the last strongholds of what they had available to them. And you saw the celebration in every single place. They weren't just saying, oh, we want Trump's New Deal over here. They were understanding that the control and manipulation that's had their thumb on top of them for the past 1,000 to 2,000 years is being lifted, and it has been lifted. So this is about very deep, long lineage. There have also been, how do I say this? Let me talk about BlackRock for a minute. I believe I cannot remember, but I did talk about that BlackRock is the head of BlackRock has been capitulated, and he has actually stepped down because BlackRock is one of the biggest corporations that perpetuated these issues and these problems. And when I go back and I see, I'm not going too terribly deep into it because it can be a real rabbit hole. But those that you refer to them as the reptilian, those that you refer to as non-terrestrials that came from someplace else, that have been not human, but controlling humanity and doing nasty things to them, and their integration into a lot of the royal bloodlines. These are the people that have been taken out, and I still see a few that are randomly here and there, but all of those that were of power have been removed. And that included like Schwab and BlackRock and some of these, those that wanted the World Health Organization, that wanted these world economic, these things that they intended to make the one world order, those people are gone. And this is where they perpetuated their business, some of it over the Middle East. Now, I'm not saying that some of the people that are in the Middle East weren't bad, that they didn't get transitioned. Is that the word? That they got taken over because they agreed to do the bad stuff for the people. And again, most of them thinking that, okay, that's going to save our history, that's going to save us. But it doesn't matter at the end of the day. Some of these people that once they got into that lifestyle, they were fully behind it. So that is what was taken out back in 2016 and 17. And then since then, you've had these 8 years where they have been building up and taking out more and more and more and more of the nefarious ones until you're here where you are today. And it's still an ongoing situation. However, the head was cut off in 2021, and then the tentacles were removed in 2022, but you still have that leftover peoples that are still trying to say, well, I'm going to step up now, I'm going to take over. And so you do still see some of that going on. And you may wonder, like, what are these people doing? And a lot of times they may be working side by side with these individuals, knowing that they're going to mess up at some point and then they'll have them. So if you think, well, that guy's a traitor, what are they doing with them? They're waiting for them to mess up again until they can get even more information. Okay. I just dropped another one into my mind. We know that probably the entire world is following this information on the Diddy trial. And I don't know if I should be saying that or not, because, I think there is still some. So I've said it once, but now we're just going to call it the D. And when I was looking at that earlier, I was a little bit concerned that the court system was not going to do what it needed to do. There is so much information that's coming out. And even though there are certain mainstream media that are trying to suppress it or trying to just not report on it, there are so many other people that know it's there and know they're talking about it, that this is just going to explode. And the mainstream media is going to have to, they'll either A, start reporting on it because they have to, or B, they're going to be taken down. They are the closest they've ever been to being taken down. And once this happens, you will see it in your local stations, because this is stuff that's been from the top and telling their local stations, you're going to say this, you're going to report this, you're going to act like this. And so it's going to be horrifying. You all know this. Many of you know exactly what I'm talking about. And it is horrifying. We all understand that. So here's the key to remembering to be in the place of balance. Remember to be in the place of love and compassion. And as people are awakening and hearing all this stuff, remember to just send love and compassion, because they're going to be as sick as each one of you felt when you learned all this information. And it feels as if there are some people that are there that are trying to discredit them, and they're trying to suppress information. But this is a dam that has burst wide open. And you're going to hear that things that were done one way, they weren't really done that way, but it was professed to be that way. And this, I'm talking about the former president and the people that were associated with this. And what they're already starting to do to try to discredit some of it is, oh, just because he was on the list doesn't mean he did anything. Just because he attended the party doesn't mean he did anything. Well, we're talking about the type of parties that were invitation only. So these people did stuff. We're talking about going to the island when that was also invitation only. So that's not going to fly. And just keep that in your consciousness. If you hear someone saying, well, just because they're on the list, it doesn't mean anything. You say right back to them, oh, yes, it does. It was invitation only. And that should, help them. Talking again, slipping back into the timelines, there is a much more strongly noted divide between humanity. Even those that are awakened, they know about this expanded spirituality, they know about universal energy, they know about that, but they still have their core beliefs. And then you have these people over here opened up to spirituality, they understand everything's going on, and they still have their core beliefs too. And even though when you get to a particular vibration, you can say, well, your core beliefs are actually based on lies, and your core beliefs are based on hurting other people, and your core beliefs, so this is what is a part of that shadow work that someone asked about earlier. It's like one side is showing you the shadow and one side is showing you the forefront. And as these two things are balancing, it's clearing out the energy for people that are in the know, and it's going to clear out the energy for people that are doing the shadow work. So just remember, light, light, light. Shine the light as often as you can, disconnect as often as you can, and be in the space that it will all come out, it will all come out, it will all come out. It has to come out. And I'm hearing you, and someone says, well, it is out all over the alternative media. Sure, that's true, but it has to bridge the gap, and it has to go out to everybody else. And it has to be and this is where people are like, well, the EBS. Then for all of these people that are right here in the shadow, that are beginning to awaken and understand that, oh, what I believed is actually false. If you slam that in their face, they're just going to shut down. And that is what humanity is trying to avoid. So I still do not see that an EBS is going to take place. All right. I think I've chatted enough. Shelly's, her throat was fine earlier today, but obviously there's a lot of energy that's being processed. So let's go on to the questions. More info about the Voyager transmission that Cliff High described as altering the consciousness of those who studied the stream. The signal was interpreted by Sycamore Chip, and the whole topic is now silent in NASA. Okay, let me connect to this a minute and see if I can understand. Can you put it back, please? The Voyager transmission, I believe that, yeah, I know what that was. And Cliff High and altering the consciousness. So one of the things that I'm doing as I'm looking at this is I'm trying to look at it through the eyes of Cliff, because when I see the Voyager, there's many different perspectives of how it can be interpreted. And so I want to see his interpretation and what he's talking about. And there is a lot of stuff that was said in the past. There was an incredible amount of brainwashing that took place. There was a lot that was done through your TV sets there. And so this Voyager that they're talking about, it does feel like it, if I'm remembering it correctly, it feels like it was old. It was like, what, 20 or 30 years ago? And it does feel like it did go out and it did do some exploration and it did bring back information. But now it's saying that NASA's, it feels like the energy behind it in interpreting it through Cliff, if I'm reading it correctly, it does feel like it was used for nefarious reasons, and it does feel as if it's been removed because they are hiding some of the things that they did before. But again, when someone is of a particular vibration, you might look at some like that and it's not going to have any impact on you. So it's all about vibration and frequency and where the people are that are watching something. So, I mean, I suppose you could say even this that we're talking about. So it feels like with some of that, I can see some levels where it was no big deal, that didn't have any impact on people, but there were other people that were more susceptible, or they had a clear intention of working with a certain group of people, and it did have an impact on them. So I can see where he was talking about that. But you know, all of these things that they're tucking under the carpet and that they think they're deleting all their information, it's never truly gone. And so you're still going to see a massive amount of information that's going to come out about things. And again, remember to use your discernment, because some of it will be lies. Some of it will be used as a means of scaring people, and always look into the energy of it yourself and say, does this resonate with me or does this not? And then even the people that you're getting the information from, well, this part of what they said resonated, this part did not. So always, always, always go back to your own discernment. But that's what I feel about that. Can you tell us more about the Earth wonder of Rainbow Hormuz Island in Iran? Hang on a second. Can you tell us more on the Earth wonder of Rainbow Hormuz Island that is in Iran, and where did it come from? Let me see what they're talking about here. So Iran, when we look at it, we have to look beneath the surface because it's been decimated for the last 50 years. You know, when it was taken over in the 70s or whenever that was, and a lot of their natural resources were put down, and a lot of stuff. You know, there were a few particular areas that they kept open, but I do see that Iran is still going through transition, and it is going to go through a transition, and it will get back to its ancient energy and its ancient knowledge. It's going to be several years still. I'd say 3 years, maybe 2.5 to 3 years, something like that. But it is coming, and it could easily be sooner than that. But a lot of these things that were deliberately suppressed, it's almost like they put a veil on it or something. So as that gets removed, and as people start working with the energy of the earth, a lot of that's going to come back, and you're going to say, wow, what a beautiful, amazing place. Those that lived there in the past, they remember this. So okay, so now I just felt like, because we're talking about Iran, I wanted to bring that up. And so the question always arises then, I just heard you, but they have the nuclear bomb, or they're going to bomb. Nobody's going to bomb the world. No nuclear bomb is going to go off that is going to decimate the world. That was taken out in 1987. Okay. And this is all, I'm not saying they didn't have bombs. I'm not saying that didn't, that yes, that did happen. And yes, all that finagling did take place. However, it is not, it's not going to go off. And I need to get back to this island that they're talking about. So this island is close to a vortex, and it has a lot of magical energies around it. It's almost like it's multidimensional or something like that, because it feels like it's there, but people don't see it. I wonder if it kept its vibration, or something was done to it to surround it and protect it when they knew this was coming on. So it feels like about 40 to 50 years they began working with it. There's a specific group of angelic energies or universal energies that have been in this space. And so, yes, it's still there, but it's multidimensional. Most people do not see it. Those that took over wanted to pull the energy from it. It feels like it's on a vortex, and there's an in and out. They don't use it as often as they used to, because they don't want to bring attention to that area. but I hope this is answering the question. I'm sorry, I got so distracted because Iran has so many different things going on. But yes, I feel like the island is there, and it will come back once they get rid of all of these low vibrational energies that have been taken over there. As the country comes back into its natural self, then you will see this island, as it's called, that will also come back. Can you give us an update on the financial system in Nasara? Something about what happened in the Middle East is also going to affect the quantum financial system. It feels like they cannot do some of those projects without the quantum financial system being activated. It also, the petrodollar was associated with oil, and that was eliminated as a part of these deals that were made. And so that brings the quantum financial system that is already activated and is already running in the background, but that's bringing it closer and closer into being told to the rest of humanity. As people start getting more and more details about some of these deals that take place, that's one of the ways in which it's going to come out. Nasara Jasara is much closer to being activated than I've ever seen it before. There's still so many different ways in which this can be manifested. And sorry. There was a ball of energy that downloaded into me because like people in the various countries, you have a certain way in which you get your laws, you follow your laws. And so Nasara Jasara, what I keep getting is that it's going to bypass that. Like, instead of saying, well, you have to go through Congress and the Senate to approve this, it feels like this is something that is going to be global. And so it's going to bypass that. And that way it will get to humanity more quickly, and it will be substantial amounts of money. Again, they had to get rid of the Pope in order to begin to really disperse and activate a lot of the money that had already been taken from under the Vatican. And now this agreement was getting rid of more of the nefarious ones in their control. So they have to be out of the way, or they would do something that would probably keep this from happening. So it's closer than it's ever been before. And I just want to reiterate, the quantum financial system is what's up and running already. And a lot of people, they may not give it that name, but they know that something transitioned about 1 to 2 years ago. So is it going to happen here in June? A potential. Is it going to happen in July? It feels closer to June than July. But as you know, I've said dates many, many, many times in the past, and they don't come true. So anyway, it is closer than it's ever been before, and there's a great potential that it will happen in the next 1 to 2 months. Anything else? Okay. All right. Well, has the Alliance recently taken over mainstream media, and was it always under their control? So the Alliance took over mainstream media probably 1 to 2 years ago. No, it was not always under their control. It was 100% under the control of the nefarious ones. But as they've continued to take out the nefarious ones, they have also gone into mainstream media. So there are certain things that, they're just kind of walking a narrow line, you could say. And there are many that are at the top that have already been removed and are gone. But there are still others that are in mainstream media that just believe 100%, that shadow self. That's what we should start calling them. Those shadow self people are up there, and they believe 100% what they're doing. But that will, I see that there's 1 or 2 of these major stations that are going to come down completely, or they may come down for a day or 2 or a week. And then when they come back, it'll be a new setup, new people, new way of doing things. So this is already in the process of happening in the background. There will be others that'll just still keep going, but you go in one day and they say, hey, look at what we've done. we are now committed to being authentic and giving you the true information. And what's gone on before has been manipulated. I could just literally, I'm watching someone say this on TV. So it does feel like it could be as blatant as that, or there could be a delay. But everything's hand in hand. The full transition of the media. So in other words, the white hats, if you call them that, are in control of the media, and they do understand what people are putting out there, and they do know that there's still, gosh, I still see this one male individual who's being told to do this, and he does whatever he wants, and it feels like they're waiting for him to do a particular kind of mess up, and they're going to take him out for treason. But he's a sneaky one. Can't no, it's not CNN. CNN's capitulated already. I'm not sure what the station is, but there's something like that is coming about. But this is all going to change, and sooner rather than later. All right. Is that it? Whew. Well, thank you very much. As always, I appreciate this time with you. And hang on, lots and lots of changes are taking place, but there's also a massive amount that's the change is done, and now you're creating your new beginning. So it's exciting to be in that place of creating and blooming into something that's brand new. This is all of the highlight frequency. If there's anyone that is in any way, shape, or form saying, is this of the light? Is this for the good? Let me just say flat out, these changes are 100% of the light and for the benefit of humanity. Beloved, know that I'm ever with you on Saluia. Greetings. It is I, Crystalia. Woo! It is so very exciting to share this time with you. We are closer and closer and closer to the vibration of which I am more accustomed. And we are closer and closer to be able to have the experiences here on this planet that I was brought in to help assist with. The foundation is love. I have said that from the time I got here. This life in which you live has always been very short. But what I see is that when you have these consistent light vibrational frequencies coming into the earth plane, as it begins to nurture humanity from a cellular level all the way out into your environment, into everything that is a part of being human, you are going to find that not only will people be healthier, but people will live a lot longer than what they did before. I'm laughing because I could already hear some of you saying, please, no, I'm tired, I'm tired. So understand that those of you that are going to live, because I see 120, 150 easy. I just heard that number. So just be aware that as that happens, you're going to be healthier, you're going to be stronger, you're going to be in greater balance. And life as you know it right now and what it's been is not the way that you're going to be living life. Life is going to be much more spiritual. You will still have, you'll still be doing your work. You'll still be living on the earth. You'll still be driving. You'll still be doing all these things, but it will be without this extreme amount of stress that people have right now. Okay. Shoot. So going along with what Brysentia spoke about when she talked about the DNA and the activation of different things, I'd like to kind of bring in, she's talking about starting at that cellular level inside of you and working outward. I'm going to start at that top level and come down. As we work with the consciousness of the planet, what we're doing is we're continuing to infuse light frequency. We're continuing to infuse energy that helps to dissipate that which is of the low vibration or the density. But we've gotten, and that, I mean, we've come way down that pathway. You know, we're very far along on that pathway. So where we stand right now is that it's still a part of the collective consciousness, but those individuals that they were talking about, that are just, it's literally as if there is a part of their mind that, how do you say that? It's like it goes into programming, and you're in that programming that hits replay, replay, replay. So they are the ones that that need to have something happen that's going to jar them outside of replay, that's going to jar them outside of just the habits that they have been in. And when that happens, that's when they're going to start looking around and saying, uh-oh, something's different. So, have you always lived here? Have you always been here? And I just see that happening to a lot of people. So so just be aware that the changes in people, some of it is going to be very, very dramatic. Some of it, as they said before, it'll be like these NPCs and they'll just disappear because they're no longer needed. But I did want to say this, like, that individual Adele that they were talking about, and how they said some of these NPCs, you as your soul has many, many, many different aspects of you. These aspects, it's usually you come down, be it on Earth, out in the universe, wherever it is that you go, you take a piece of your soul, it moves down through the experience and the dimensions and the reality of being in that space. And this is what you're doing right now as you live this life. And so the aspect that came down through Adele's soul that got caught up in all of that, and it was more than what she wanted, and she ended up being taken out. Again, I agree when they said it felt like the nefarious ones took out about, it's feeling like about, I don't know, 40 to 50. Could have been more, could have been less. I don't know, but I'm just seeing that number. Here's what I believe is going to happen to some of them, and you may be seeing this already. They were replaced when they were completely taken off and they were completely killed out. They were replaced by an aspect that came from their soul. And we said maybe they're an NPC. So perhaps it came down temporarily to see, well, I'm just going to be a placeholder for this individual as all of this transition is going on. And then maybe if, just depending on how things work out, I'll just pass over and I'll go back up and and that'll be the end of my life. Or I'm getting a sense that some of these are going to come down as if it's replacing you, like a walk-in, as you called them. And then if it's for the best of the betterment of that soul essence, then that soul will come down and occupy that person, and they will move forward as if that soul has been in that person that whole time. So you recall back in, I think it was I think it could happen at any point, but sometimes when someone was a walk-in was when someone's body was perhaps a soul was ready to leave a body because their life was over, and then another soul came in and took over that body. These people did not have bodies; their bodies were disintegrated. So that's perhaps one of the reasons why they look differently. This is something that is done on other planets. And I see a potential that it's what's going to happen here. So some of these people, for those that had certain crimes against humanity, no, they're not getting a do-over unless they go back and heal and clear and do it all throughout their own soul. I'm talking about those that had like an NPC come down or something else came down as a placeholder because they were, maybe did some things that weren't so good, but they weren't a part, and the purity of their soul or the clarity of their soul was different, I guess is a better way to say it. Anyway, I just saw that experience. I saw that playing out as that other, and as we were talking about that earlier. So I wanted to say to you that for so many of these people where you say, man, I live and they look different, man, I don't know about that. It might be this is the situation that's going on with them. And it may be then that they do drop down their soul and they become a soul essence living out the remainder of that life. when you're in the space of your soul, it's a very, very high frequency, very high vibration. And as that soul, as that part that's connected to God, that part that came from the central sun, that part that was birthed and became you throughout thousands of different lifetimes and experiences, you can see how there have been patterns and there have been certain things that you have experienced. So from that perspective, and again, I'm coming from that highlight perspective, there are certain things that are just like a line in the sand, but is a wide variety of things that it's like, nah, they just didn't make good decisions. And so I think it also is a place of coming from perception. It's also a place of coming from love. It's a place of coming from just ideology and potential. So I'm positive that if any of these individuals that you might see over time, if they thought that they were going to go back and do it again or perpetuate it again, then there's an absolute 100% no that they would not have that opportunity. So just food for thought. Just keep it in mind as these days go by. Well, Shelly's getting tired. Let's go ahead and do any questions that I may have. Can you work with us to give us a greater clarity and energy, energy-wise, in love, discernment, detachment? Thank you so much for asking me that. And you can always connect to me in meditation, like when you go quiet and in meditation and you say, hey, Crystalia, can you come help me and work with me? And I will always show up for you. So if you have that perception, is she here? Is she not here? Is this doing any good? Is it not? Then I ask you to open up the doorway that, yes, I am there, that, yes, I am doing good for you, and that, yes, I am helping you out. Okay, that being said, yeah, I'm putting out the intention. We are going to have a class about that, and it will be something that Shelly records so that you can always go back and download it. Because we did have a class several years ago, and perhaps we'll grow on that, or perhaps we'll do something that's totally different, because the energies of the earth have shifted. So what was pertinent at that time is not necessarily pertinent now. What I would bring into a situation would be helping you to discern and understand that expanded consciousness, helping you about letting go of any borders that you may have that says, okay, this is the way it needs to look, this is the way it needs to happen, so that as you let that go and things start dropping into your consciousness, then it allows you to be able to see things, understand things, or move through in a different way. So just be open to it, and you can do this immediately through your meditation. And I see a lot of you like to journal. That's a wonderful way to process. So as you're writing things down, it's streaming into you from your higher self, and that's opening up that doorway. Typing on the computer, I know a lot of you like that. Talking into your phone or something like that. So all of these are ways that can kind of trigger that transition for you. Woo, she's really getting tired. Okay, is there any more? I'll do one more. Unless that's done. Okay, I feel like that's done. All right, everybody. Maybe next time I'll go first again. But thank you very, very much for being here. Thank you for allowing all of us to come and be present with you and share this time. We all love you dearly. We are here with that which is of the highest light vibration and frequency, and helping you to join us at where we are as we come down to assist you where you are. It's a two-way street, and we're all moving into that place which is in the highest light vibration and that which is best for humanity and the earth. I love you dearly. Ansaluia. Whew. Wow. Woo. I'm trying to ground myself again. Wow, that was super, super cool tonight. I really like that idea because I don't know. I just, like about Adele, the fact that maybe it was another aspect of her own soul that's just saying, I'm a placeholder. Maybe I'm going to stay. Maybe I'm not. I don't know. That's just food for thought. That's the first time I've heard something like that. So we shall see. But I do know that there's a ton of other NPCs that are just going to disappear out of here. And then there'll be a lot less people. Well, thank you, everyone. I truly appreciate it. And I'll see you later. Please feel free to subscribe, share, whatever it is that you'd like to do. And then if you wanted to work personally with me or privately with me, check out my website, crystallinetransformations.com. Thank you. Bye-bye.